Welcome to Hemp Foundation TALKS, where we listen to the heartbeats of the hemp industry and learn the celebrations, challenges, and discoveries from hemp leaders and advocates from around the world. I'm Rebecca, International Business Officer with the Hemp Foundation and your host. Today's guest is Heather Rubiales. Heather Rubiales is the visionary behind Heather's Hemp Alternatives. She has worked closely with the cannabis industry since 2009, gaining expertise in cultivation and distribution. Heather is a lifetime environmentalist, receiving her bachelor's degree in natural resources management. During college was when she dived deep into the industrial hemp plant and gained knowledge of all of its uses and the potential for great environmental change for our world. She's especially passionate about tackling plastic pollution and why she created her Hemp Bioplastic startup to ignite real change within the hemp and cannabis industry surrounding the plastic waste issue. Welcome, Heather.
Hi, Rebecca. Thank you for having me.
Yes, it's such a pleasure to have you, and even just to learn about your passion and what you're doing in the industry in regards to tackling our plastic pollution problem, because that's really a big issue. Tell us a little bit more about what motivated you to get started in the hemp industry.
Yeah, well, really all stemmed back in college, back when I was going to Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo here in California. I got my degree in natural resources management. And I had a couple classes that really had sparked the industrial hemp interest. One of the classes was an English class, and our professor at the time had gave us a project. We had to write a research paper. And so I chose, industrial hemp and to emphasize all of its uses. And so I read the book, Jack Herrera's book, as many hemppreneurs and hemp activists know, is The Emperor Wears No Clothes. So after reading that book, I was just fascinated. I could not stop thinking about, wow, like the irony behind it as well. And just the story fascinated me. How the industrial hemp and how even cannabis became illegal back in 1933s, and really back in the 1930s and 1940s is when they were really pushing this out, because they saw the implications that it could take over the plastics industry, it could take over the lumber industry, and so that's what happened with the 1933 Marijuana Tax Act. And so seeing all of that occur, or reading about all of that, it just really sparked a passion in me. And I was already in the cannabis industry since I've been in it since 2009, but doing more cultivation on the cannabis side. And we were selling to Harborside when Harborside was just 215. So you had to actually have a medical card back then. It was a completely different world here in California. But I really became passionate about industrial hemp back in college, right? First started doing the research paper, which really sparked my interest. And then I went over to another project. I was in ceramics class. Because I had a lot of labs, a lot of hard classes. I really wanted to take a class that was easy for me, and kind of like be able to breathe. And so in our ceramics class, our professor had told us, well, I want you guys to create a relic and also choose a relic and create a reliquary out of clay, out of ceramic. So my relic I chose, which is something you cherish in life, you hold close to, and your reliquary is something that you keep safe. So you put your relic in your reliquary to keep it safe. And so I chose hemp rope back then. And this was the same year, I believe, I wrote the research paper. And so I chose hemp rope, and then I made my ceramic piece made it into a ship, because I wanted to tell the story of how we used to use hemp for our sales. Our clothes used to be made out of hemp. It was just the norm. It was actually your patriotic duty to grow hemp in America back then. And so I wanted to tell that story through ceramics. And so on the outside of the ship, I had little clothes that I made, and I put on there. I had a barrel. It said oil, and it had a weed leaf on it, or cannabis leaf on it. And just to try to explain, the story of the industrial hemp story through ceramics. And so it wouldn't be until 10 years later that now I started Heather's Alternatives, right? And I kind of lost sight of it, honestly, the industrial hemp side. And I was so passionate about it for those couple years in college, and then I got really immersed in the cannabis industry side. And so it wouldn't be until 2017 when I moved to Humboldt County, where I live today, where this passion for the industrial hemp side really sparked again, after seeing all the plastic pollution unfold.
Right. So you were working in the medical cannabis industry or the CBD side?
The medical cannabis.
Medical cannabis. Okay.
Yeah. For many years. That's how I began in the industry. But really I realized what my focus was more of the industrial hemp side and more of the environmental stewardship side of the industry.
So you were telling me before, it's like, it was really disheartening for you to see the industry, promoting cannabis, but yet using like plastics for packaging and all that stuff. So that was something that kind of ignited in you to make a change in this industry so that we can move more to even our packaging being hemp-based and such.
Exactly. I saw the irony, I guess I would say, or the hypocriticalness of what we were doing, right? Really straightforward in the eyes, after, unknowing about the industrial hemp world and why cannabis was illegal today, and how it became illegal was because of the greed that was there. And so I thought, we need to be utilizing our own byways as an industry to be creating our packaging, to be creating cultivation items, even all the way down to what our amendments, our fertilizers are in, really creating this circular economy for sustainability efforts in the industry. I think it's number one for sustainability efforts in this industry, and to really show that we can use our own byways as an industry, create our products, and we don't need to rely on the petroleum industry, the very industry that subsequently made cannabis and hemp illegal today, or basic, it's not federally legal. And a lot of it has to stem from what happened back in 1930s and 40s.
Right. So what was the next step for you to go down this path of Heather's Hemp Alternatives and to create the solutions for some of these issues?
So this has been about 3 years that I've been on Heather's Hemp Alternatives, since the end of 2018, actually. And, it's been so many trials and errors. The hemp bioplastic space in general is so new. I really wanted to look for a resin, a hemp bioplastic resin, that was home compostable. There were resins out there that were industrial compostable. A lot of the resins were still made with ABS, or polyethylene, which is a fossil fuel-based polymer. And so I wanted to make sure that whatever polymer that we are adding to the hemp herds, and I can talk all day about how hemp bioplastic is made, but I wanted to make sure that polymer was going to be something that aligned with my mission. And my mission was to have a backyard compostable hemp bioplastic resin that we could utilize for our packaging and such. But I want to make a point here is that we aren't going to be providing just packaging, or else I would be called Heather's Hemp Packaging, right? But we really want to stem from all the way from cultivation to packaging, be able to provide products like greenhouse tarping, we have trellising. I mean, there's so much that goes plastic that's involved in the industry on a cultivation side and packaging.
Right.
So really be able to bring a new definition to what sustainable cannabis and hemp looks like. Because we talk about it all day long. Oh, we're regenerative. Oh, we're sustainable. But at the end of the day, if we're still providing or utilizing tons of single-use plastics that are petroleum-based, how sustainable are we? And especially it comes into concerns when, especially in California, cannabis packaging is not recyclable. because of the residue that's involved within the packaging.
Oh.
So it becomes a huge concern. We already know 90% of all plastic that has ever been created in the world has been recycled. Only 9% of that, right? So recycling is not something that we can rely on as a solution to solve the plastic pollution crisis. We need to rely on total innovation of this type of resin, of this type of plastic.
Right, because we're not truly solving the problem, right? If we're trying to recycle something that really has already tainted in a sense, right? And then it's eventually everything goes back to the soil. So we need to have better practices, right? That I like that, you know, your initiative for it to be home compostable as well, so that you're giving others the opportunity to make it easy, you know, and doable, because that's very important.
Exactly. I mean, it was something that I was like, before starting this, I was an environmentalist, you know, before I became an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So I really wanted to create products that wasn't just going to create more waste. That was something that I would not be able to sleep at night. Oh my goodness, I would not be able to sleep at night if I was creating products that was just creating more waste and not really solving the issue. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So basically, you know, our mission is 100% backyard compostable, and you know, we would love to get to 100% hemp bioplastic. That's a whole nother talk here, but what the issue is right now in the hemp bioplastic space is the polymer issue. I always talk about this, but if we could create a polymer that's derived actually from the hemp plant, right? We're not using PLA or PHA or PBS. We're actually we're deriving our polymer from the hemp plant, adding that to the hemp herd. Now we have 100% hemp bioplastic. This will drastically decrease our price per unit, because this is something that a lot of us hempreneurs are facing, whether you're in the hempcrete world, whether you're in the hemp paper world, and in my case, I'm in the hemp bioplastic world. We're all fighting this cost, this cost per pound of the hemp bioresin. And it's not the hemp that's expensive in this. It's not. It's the polymer that's expensive. So that is something that that's another mission of mine, is to be able to find out who could compound, or be able to compound something of that realm of being 100% hemp would be amazing.
So what are the challenges that you're facing right now, as being a hempreneur, you know, and trying to get things started?
Number one is funding. This is something that has been an issue for the last few years. You know, it's the chicken before the egg. You know, you have to have traction in order to and show revenue in order for many investors to believe in you. But in order to have traction and show revenue, you need to have funding. Unless you have backup or from family and friends. But not everyone does. You know, a family and friend round can get you so far. So that's the number one wall in front of us is funding, because we can't move from here now. We have samples available. I'm sorry about that. Hello. We have samples available of our child-resistant closures, but in order for us to be able to get to our full line of production, we need funding to cover our tools, our injection molds, and so on. Basically, the operating costs, the initial capital needed for that.
So what are your main products that you're starting off with?
Yeah, so we are starting off with child-resistant closures. We wanted to create the full body.
And is this more for is your target more for the medical cannabis industry?
Yes, for now, for the initial products. We are actually going to be able to provide non-CR, non-child resistant as well. So like jars. This is a little jar. It's not made out of the hemp resin that you can see here, but it can be. So this is a non-CR jar that could be used for CBD flower. edibles and so forth. But I know in Canada, whether it's CBD or THC, you still need child resistant for packaging, which is interesting. So for now, we are just providing child resistant closures.
Okay.
For both of the, and you can hear the clicking, that's the child resistant factor in it. For the little pre-rolls, joints.
So what states require that? Is it required everywhere, or is it just in certain states?
Yes, for now, Oregon, California, Washington, Colorado. I haven't checked up on the other states, but I know that it's going to be like a required thing.
Right.
Nationally, I believe.
Right.
And I know that Oregon used to be deli style. So I was a bud tender in Oregon in 2017, before I moved to Humboldt. And I was able to tell people to bring back their jars, and I would refill them.
Oh, amazing.
And so that would reduce the waste drastically, right?
Yeah.
So that's deli style, but I don't believe that deli style is we are not able to do that here in California, unfortunately. But we wanted another hiccup that the hemp bioplastic space is dealing with is that we wanted to create the full bodies. This is my full body prototype of the container. But the thing is we're only able to injection mold. So we have to injection mold these closures. But if this lip here will have to be blow molded. So what we need to do is find or create a blow moldable hemp bioresin. So once we can do that, oh wow, I mean the hemp bioplastic space is going to go off, right? Because we can create bottles. So for anybody who's listening, just so you can help visualize this. If you think of a water bottle, the bottom of a water bottle, that's blow molded. The cap on top, that's injection molded. So right now in the hemp bioplastic space, unfortunately, we only have injection molding capabilities.
Okay.
So until we get to blow molding, then we'll be able to provide the full body.
I understand. So those containers, you can, with the blow molding, you have a little bit more flexibility to make them rounded and maybe a little thinner.
Exactly.
And less material.
Yeah, and then what happens is you end up with a mushroom top. If you don't blow mold it, it ends up with a little mushroom top, with the child resistant factor. And so aesthetically, I know people don't want mushroom tops. I've been in the cannabis industry for many, many years and in the back of packaging. And so that's just also why I started with this type of packaging, because it was something easy for people to change over. They had to just switch out a polypropylene lid that usually comes with all these jars, and then switch it out.
It's a glass lid, and you're offering a hemp-based bioplastic solution for glass bottles.
Yes, for now. For now.
Okay.
Until we can get to blow molding, then we'll be able to create these little tubes.
Right.
We'll be able to create our bottom of these jars. So yeah, it's going to be forever expanding.
Yes, it is. There's always room for growth. Right. So just tell me a little bit more what your vision is, for the next 3 to 5 years, and what ideally, once you get that funding and such, what do you envision?
So, well, I envision on creating our own custom compounding, our own hemp bioresin. If we can't find 100% hemp bioresin in the next year or two, then that's when we will get to custom compounding. Another vision of mine too is be able to provide as many products, come out with each year new products, and not just packaging products, cultivation items. So I'm really, really excited to get to the cultivation side. I'm starting with packaging because it's a little bit easier and we have the tools and knowledge to create right now. But in terms of cultivation items, will be a lot more R&D. So within the next 3 to 5 years, I want to provide cultivation items. And we'll have to get to sheet filming, right? That creates little baggies. I love to create little bags out of the hemp bioresin. But I think yeah, it's going to be continually coming out with new products every year, doing some of our own custom compounding and trying to get this price per pound down. So then more companies can switch over, because
Right.
the issue we're facing is the cost.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, a lot of people live with profit over environment. And
Right.
we have to figure out how to tackle that main issue,
Mhm.
is profit over environment mindset. And the
Right.
way to tackle profit over environment mindset is to get this price as low as we can, while at the same time educating. Why hemp bioplastic? A lot of people don't even know today that the plastic that they use is made from petroleum.
Mhm.
Many people don't even know that fact. So it's really going to be about educating people. In the next 3 to 5 years, getting this price per pound of the hemp resin as low as I can, so I
Mhm.
can, yeah, like I can branch out.
Right. And I think you said a very important thing though too, because the more that we educate people as consumers, and I think that we're getting to a place where more people are conscious and aware of what they're purchasing and what it's supporting, right? And the more that people like you can bring that education to the forefront and telling people, hey, this is what's in this plastic that you're drinking out of, and this is what's going into our water, and this is how it's affecting our environment. The more that we can get that message out, I think the more the consumer is going to change and consider what they're purchasing. So I believe that even, yes, there's getting that price down too, but I think the education is so important, and people will spend money on things that they value. And I think that if we value our environment, then we should spend the extra money to buy things that are supporting our environment and not these cheap plastic things. And that's what we're continuing to do, right? So,
Exactly. I think what happens is when many people are in survival mode these days, and
right,
so even if you have that education, the knowledge, plastic's bad, you're just trying to survive. And I think that this is something that we as just a society in general needs to tackle before we can really be super proactive on saving our environment and
Mhm.
in loving our Mother Earth. We need to tackle the people that are in survival mode and be able to uplift those. And
Right,
that's something that, I just want to mention real fast with why I started my Heather Simple Alternatives. I guess you would say your why. Every entrepreneur out there has their why.
right,
And yes, it's why is that I'm super passionate about ending plastic pollution. But another why of mine is to be able to utilize this company to create an eco community,
mhm,
to buy a big piece of land and start an eco village
mhm,
and create little tiny hemp home domes. And I envision about like 50 people living on the property with
mhm.
their families. Kids running around. We have our food forest. We have our garden of all our fresh organic vegetables that are toxic, pesticide free, and and we have our solar. We have our off-grid living. We're not
Right,
relying on I would say the petro gangsters. I don't know if that's the best term to use, but it's my term. um, and so that's my why. That's my why I'm doing Heather Simple Alternatives, is so I can create and provide something even more, not just for myself, but for
right.
other people as well.
And I like that approach. And what I'm hearing too is just it's a balance, right? Like we need a balance in our environment, but that also comes with balancing communities and bringing that awareness. And I think that we've lost touch, to simple things and simple living and how we can utilize what Mother Earth has given us, right?
Exactly. I mean, you walk outside and I can eat so many different varieties of food. I mean, it depends where you are. If you're in the desert, obviously it's a different story. But if you know what is edible and nutritious, I can go walk outside and make myself a nice nettle soup right now, which is so great for you.
Right.
But yeah, just going back to that sovereignty, and I want to be able to provide that for others
Mhm.
with this company, be able to, because I won't be able to do that with a 9 to 5, working on a 9 to 5, working for somebody else at 20 an hour, 15 an hour.
Mhm.
That will not supplement my dream of
Right.
doing this. So this is really why I started Heather Simple Alternatives too.
Well, thank you, Heather. It's been such a pleasure to get to know you and to hear that passion. And we're rooting for you at the Hemp Foundation because we're also passionate about the same things, and it's about healing communities and our earth. It's so good to hear from you and to hear your passion, to know what you're doing, in your part of the world.
Well, thank you, Rebecca. I love what you guys do at the Hemp Foundation, and your story in general too is really beautiful. And you've been such a warrior out there, and so I feel very privileged to be interviewed by you.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you so much. Hopefully, maybe we can have you on the show again sometime, and as you progress and see how things go, and check back in.
I would love it. Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Bye. Thanks.
Thank you for listening to Hemp Foundation Talks. Hemp Foundation is a nonprofit social enterprise on a mission to provide solutions for our current ecological crisis. Hemp Foundation and their brand Uki has created a value chain from village farms to the marketplace, utilizing the many benefits of hemp to overcome deforestation, fight plastic pollution, and support regenerative practices to heal our earth. The foundation supports over 250 small village farmers in the Indian Himalayan region. In addition, they employ widows and women in the production of over 500 hemp products for the marketplace, from clothing to food to hemp bags, a large range of textiles, embroidered fabrics, home goods, and even hemp bioplastic. To learn more, visit hempfoundation.net.